Just make sure everything's set up. All right. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. We're on GenAI 102, Understanding the GenAI Landscape. As you can see on the orientation, this will be a lot of focus different from a technical side piece. Although it's very important to know the technical side, the point of this course is to also help gain more of that business knowledge to match the technical. As much as you can be the best programmer, best coder yourself out there, unless you know how to use it appropriately in business or appropriate in terms of creating your own successful products, it won't be as effective as it should be. So let's get a little deeper into that information. So I know there's some people who may be joining us for the first time. That's what the poll is about. I just want to curious to see how many individuals are here for the first time. So maybe there are some concepts that you may not know, or I may say a topic that may be different from what you know as well. So I wanted a quick poll of those who actually have joined in the past. So maybe a quick hand, maybe be faster for a show of hands for those who are taking this for the first time in the chat. Maybe you can just put your raise your hand in there, and that way I can quickly just have a quick overview of how many people I can just quickly just have to make sure that I can go over and talk about core concepts. Okay. All right. No worries. Awesome. Okay. More people coming in. No worries. All right. So usually in my courses, I usually have some ground rules to start off. Again, some ground rules I want to start off. If you have a question, rather than interrupting me while trying to give presentation, just raise your hand in the chat or write a question in the chat box for any questions, any clarifications you need. No question, there's no such thing as a stupid question, no such thing as a basic question as well. So just please feel free to ask in the chat. Um, you may um, you may be answering questions that someone else may have as well, right? So always feel free to hand in the chat. Sometimes I will stop the presentation and answer if it's a quick question on the subject we're talking about. But if it's a question that may require 5 to 10 minutes to explain, I may pause those questions and leave those to the end, just so we can get through the course material that we have for today. Um, so those are just something that just quick etiquette in terms of virtual learning. Second thing is always to keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking. You could be you could be running, you could be on a tricycle, etc. So definitely we want to make sure that the microphones are muted. So always have that possible. Use video when possible. This helps with engagement. I can see if you're making confused face versus like okay. So that really helps me sometimes as well, sort of gauge of how well my piece is going. And if you really like something or you agree with something again, you always can put a hands up or a thumbs up showing that you're agreeing with everything, right? So, and the main point of this is that you want to get the most out of this, right? So try to be present, avoid multitasking of listening to the course and having something else in the background because you really want to get the most out of this and really bring up your skill sets to the next level. So, introduction. So today's class, we're going to help you anticipate and prepare for upcoming changes. It doesn't have to be particular in software development. It can be about any area that you're in. It could be that you're creating a chatbot for yourself or for your team as well. And how does that and how does that creation all take effect with AI? We want to help you equip you with insights to talk about some strategic discussions about AI as well. How does that change the current landscape? I'm also trying to help you bridge the gap between what's currently happening right now and what are future possibilities, and really help you in terms of guide your development around AI transformed landscapes. So that's the purpose of this week's class. We'll talk about a little bit more about what's coming up in the upcoming weeks, as we talked about before. So this week specifically about understanding the trends, what's the future of Gen AI, in business and software, really getting into deeper into how is this being effective or not. Two, learning AI adoption. The second week, we're actually going to go through what are the types of AI out there, right? So So a lot of people have questioned, we spend a lot of time on agents, right? So someone asked that question. Week two is where I'll be talking about how many different types of AI agents are there? What's the roles, responsibilities? What are the capabilities? A lot of people are coming out with these new, have you heard of Man is coming out? OpenAI has now released their AI agent platform. What are all these different things do, and how does that really affect the business versus what you currently have right now, right? And how can you really use AI and cross different types of businesses as well, etc. So that week two is more deeper into that. Week three is understanding the total cost of ownership. Yes, it's really simple to say I'm going to use AI, but what does it really take for you to actually have to really create a plan, right? So, what's the talent, or the tools, or the costing, or the experimentations, and how can you help estimate those costs? Week four is now that you understand what you can do with it, understanding how you can develop the cost. Week four is designing GenAI implementation plans, right? So how can you translate these AI use cases to actual rollout plans and tie them to strategy? Week five, now how can you develop proposals based off that ROI? And six, I'm expecting everyone just will be having different ways of how can you do a final presentation outlining GenAI strategy or proposals. So this you'll be working in groups of three or four, developing a small presentation of how you're going to be proposing or pitching a GenAI strategy in terms of cost, ownership, translation, and strategy, and really show that pull all the different tools that you'll be able to pull from this course. All right, so let's get into it. Welcome to week one. So we're going to first talk about four case studies. And what I'm going to focus on is not the typical hype or typical things that people talk about AI. I'm going to focus mostly on what's going on and is it really hype, and what's happening. And of course, if I say something that you may not know, our terminology for those who just joined from 102, please feel free to write in the chat. If you have any questions, please feel free. But I'll try to make everything extremely general, very low case, and that way everyone can have a good understanding. So the first thing that I'm noticing a lot of businesses are having issue with is, example, investments. Um, Microsoft invested, I think, $13 billion in OpenAI to develop AI and to have it create lots of opportunities, and also to create lots of business cases. But what happened? Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, just came out and said, actually, we're not getting the expected returns from OpenAI. And they have that there. And again, every single thing I'm talking about, I have sort of hyperlinked it as well in the chat for those who want to get more. I gave the slides out yesterday in the WhatsApp for those who want to follow along with me. You can quickly view the articles that I'm pointing out to. But in terms of investments, a lot of people are saying they're not getting the investment they need from AI. And especially from Microsoft, they come out and say, you know what? It's not coming out like we wanted to. And this is basically because of antitrust issues. If people understand what antitrust issues are from companies still very skeptical about how can AI really help the business and complications. Yeah, maybe Manoj can help post the slides again for those who joined later, so they can make sure everyone has that. Um, so what is that like? Why is Microsoft, the one who invested tons of money, still not happy with OpenAI? And second part of it is the operational complications. It's simple to say, hey, I'm going to use AI, but most people are still a lot of people still are privacy concerned. If the a lot of people, so I remember if you remember this on the New York Times, they were suing OpenAI in terms of stealing all their information. A lot of people still don't have that trust with OpenAI because now if they're giving them the company's business, how can you ensure that you're not going to be training your model on my company's data? And that comes with the antitrust issues, operation complications, and Microsoft is now feeling that heat back from investing so much in OpenAI, that they're not getting that response back. So that's sort of one major issue right now in terms of investments of people going in, putting a lot of money into this AI. And although I don't have this here, a typical one I just saw on the news, everyone talks about Stargate. how they're putting billions and trillions of dollars into Stargate and how it was really hyped up and how Oracle, OpenAI, they all just joined together and said, we're going to be investing in making AGI, we're going to be making, and we're going to have so much GPUs from NVIDIA, we're going to make this big. 2 weeks, like, I think it was literally a week later, DeepSeek R1 comes out saying you can make the models at a fraction of the cost. And that really turned the tide of, whoa, why, like, how did this happen? And the stock of NVIDIA just dropped dramatically. So again, investments in AI is still a risky business, and a lot of people are still holding off. They still have those antitrust issues, and they're still trying to face those reactions, right? Second part of it is a skepticism. A lot. So this newspaper article is from Australia. They did a report and they went around these different Australian companies and they bought AI into their systems. They're using it, but like close to 60% of the companies that use AI are using it to build their RAGs, using to build their chatbots. They're saying it's not meeting expectations. They're doing what they're being told, but it's costing them way too much, which we'll talk about next, and we don't feel happy with the results. So what happens? 70% of investors withdrew their active deals from AI because of this, simply because they were not feeling or not getting the investments they feel they're getting out of it. Again, going back to number one, because they're skeptics, a lot of people invest on sure things. A lot of people invest on top quality. That removed a lot of investors from Australia, and this was why this was a case study that came out and it's like, why is this happening here? Next is high cost. Is Gartner research predicts that nearly one-third of generative AI products will be abandoned after proof of concept by the end of next year, primarily due to rising costs, unclear business value. So the high cost comes from people um, who want to jump into um, who want to jump into AI, don't have a clear strategy, don't have clear ROI. They don't have those clear parts, and they just want to use it because AI looks good on an investor report. Your newspaper saying, "Like, we're using AI in our company, therefore you shouldn't be investing in our stocks," right? But what really they don't know is that although you're saying you're using all this AI, although you're putting all this money into it, is it really driving that enough value in order to be a clear business case? So this is what people are getting into trouble because yes, it's cool. Yes, I can make efficiencies in my company, but there's a true cost behind it that most people aren't realizing it. Next is struggles in measuring AI ROI. So it goes back to the last one. Yes, it's important to have AI. Yes, important to be doing this. But let's say it struggles in measuring AI ROI. So let's say you have a plan to release a chatbot, okay? This chatbot is going to be saving you money because you have maybe 10, 15 individuals working in the chatbot center trying to answer questions, and you feel like a bunch of these can be automated. But as you develop your chatbot and you create it and you're able to answer the questions, it's really great. But one, your chatbot is hallucinating. It's giving you, although you trained it, although you created and you create all these hallucinations. For those who are just joining, hallucinations are when a chatbot or an AI is doesn't give the right information. When it hallucinates, could cause a lawsuit. When things saying things incorrectly, this happens. And again, a good example of this is when Air Canada had a chatbot and someone had a bereavement and happened in their family. So they asked the Air Canada chatbot, "Hey, what is your bereavement options? Because my family member just passed away. I have to fly tomorrow. What can I do? Oh, don't worry, you can right in within 48 hours to our Air Canada contact center, and we'll get you the refund that you need." But in reality, FAQ said you must give it within 12 hours and plus provide a death certificate, things like that, to add on to the FAQs. So when they responded 48 hours saying, "Hey, this happened," they said, "No, we're not going to refund your tickets. You missed your flights, etc." So this led to a lawsuit against Air Canada because their chatbot said something and really their policies were completely different and they didn't want to lose that money. So as much as you go in and you put in as much effort in developing something good, your ROI of developing something could cause more money in terms of lawsuits, could cause, although you automated a lot of messages, but this could push volume to another area. Maybe they don't like talking to chatbots. They want to talk to a human person. So instead of writing to your front page, they switch to the volumes of phone calls. Now your volume of phone calls have now jumped up. Now you have to purchase more clients, or you have to now outsource more phone conversation volumes out layer because your chatbot is not fulfilling the need it's having. It's not answering questions that it needs to do. So how can you really develop that strong AI ROI? How can you look at the potential risks of developing and pushing these AI on these AI machines without and trying to provide true value? So these are just top case studies that I really want to talk about that people are facing today, developing and pushing in AI. And this is the reason why most companies are very hesitant of getting deeper into it, or when people are rushing into it and they're not getting the value that they need. So there's a couple questions on the chat I'll just quickly talk about. There's some articles saying that DeepSeek copied data from ChatGPT. Any credibility about it? Yes, so OpenAI has come out and said that they're doing something called distilling, which is an LLM technique, which you have a teacher and a student, and you try to extract clean data from a model in order to train another model. So it's called a teacher-student model. What they did was they used ChatGPT's model, the most top reasoning model, and ask questions. And because they ask questions in a certain way, they're able to use that question, the responses from ChatGPT, and create a good training data set on everything. They probably spent, they found that this Chinese company used it for 3, 4 months, developing a training data set from ChatGPT by answering certain questions, and then use that to train DeepSeek. So this is why you might see some articles about OpenAI has come out and they said they found the accounts that were using that to extract information. So what your question about how can DeepSeek be built with a fraction of the cost? That's a really good question. Maybe I can save it for the end of the class, simply because this is out of scope for the business one. But we talked about it in GenAI 101, and we talked about how when training a model, you don't need to use all the weights, and we talked about different weights. So we can go from there. Okay, and my last question before I jump to the next slide is how do AI companies really make money? So that's really the is really part, right? So AI companies make money from not from the LLM itself, it's from the services they provide. So if you're using their APIs or using their model, they have to charge you the cost of using their graphics cards, craft the cost of using their services. And we'll talk more about that, but around week 3 when we talk about overall cost. And how they want to make money off of you is not is making those inference calls, using their model to respond to questions, and they're making millions and millions of dollars. There's some companies that are actually in debt, like OpenAI is still in debt in terms of investors versus certain cost right now, but we'll go from there. So that's a good question. It's considered illegal if DeepSeek has enterprise OpenAI license. That's a very good question. And I think it's very funny because um, OpenAI stole all their information in the first place from the internet, right? They never asked New York Times to ask to borrow to use their information to train. This sort of scraped everything and then used it to train. And now because someone's scraping them, they're getting upset, right? So it's a very precarious situation, which I just find very funny from their side in terms of trying to take the ethical high ground. Okay, so is disappointment in AI actually a good thing? So let's talk about the AI hype and the reality gap from this. So in recent years, AI has been sort of revolutionary force in the business world. So for those who are not taking Gen AI 101, we learned that AI isn't something new. It's something that was actually created starting from the 1950s, and we had different types of algorithms that turned into machine learning. that turned into NLP, which is natural language processing. Then we eventually got to where we are today, what's called generative AI, but it's all part under the AI scope, right? So it's not something new, but it's something that's been there for a while. But now generative AI, which is a part of the whole AI sequence, is taking really the next step. It's hyping up. It's being saying this is what's really going to boost in all the big money, right? So industries, analysts, consultants market and paint picture AI as a silver bullet for anything, right? They're promising productivity boost. It'll help you break down cost. This will help you create new jobs. But however, there's been a lot of separation from actual reality versus what is actually being proposed. For example, on the left we have the CEO. I tried to try to do some paint myself, and the CEOs are saying, hey, if I use AI, this is giving me a 30 to 50% more productivity in a company. We need this. Let's spend the millions of dollars. Let's get AI in here. Let's do this. And they have this dream that if I have AI, my company's going to skyrocket. It is the silver bullet, right? So they go in there, they're developing and they're pushing all this stuff in, and they're just hoping for this productivity. But when you go down to the average worker, you see the average developer looks at AI and say, but it's hallucinating or it's giving me wrong code. It's actually it's smart. It's helping me in some things, but like it's not doing much. It's like a better keyboard for me. It's helping me understand how to do my work faster and it's being more ergonomic and I don't have to do much, but it's basically just a better keyboard. So that gap between what a CEO thinks that AI is going to do versus the average worker creates this gap. And then this gap becomes, instead of a dream, becomes a pain for the CEO because he's not seeing that ROI that he expected to see implementing AI. And it really comes from the top down because they're saying, hey, we're giving you AI, you should be developing and producing 30% more productivity. Um, what's going on in the and then the huge gap is when you go back to the average worker and you say, hey, like I'm actually see AI is cool, helps me write my emails better, it's helping me respond to things, but like it's a cool keyboard, but it's not helping me better, right? So what is that gap and how can we close that gap? So for C-levels, AI represents a dream and a challenge. The dream is rapid progression from transformation of their business, but it's really more complex than that. Despite being adopted from every single company, marketing, HR, finance, like that, and ChatGPT becoming the one fastest adopted application in history, faster than TikTok, like that's one of the most downloaded apps, most used. Most companies aren't seeing that dramatic performance that they expected, right? They're not seeing that 30, 50% they're being promised from OpenAI if they include AI into their workspaces. So that gap between expectation and reality creates an really interesting opportunity. It shows that we're not really in a stagnant area that we talked about before, but we're really moving into a new frontier. Um, and the biggest opportunity comes to those who are going to be able to close that gap. How can you really close that gap of a CEO expecting 30 to 50% productivity to the average person who's saying this is just better, this just helps me just a little bit, to actually translate that to actually real ROI. And this is the landscape that we're facing right now. We're trying to find ways of deliver measurable improvements in productivity and efficiency or innovations. And those who are willing to dig deeper into this, this is really a new territory which you can conquer and lead in your AI-driven future. And this is why you'll see in some of your own companies, although you may have GitHub Copilot, you may have Copilot M6 365, you may have these different things. Although you're saying that you're expecting huge changes, they're not really seeing them. And again, that's that gap that has potential opportunity to be worked on. And this is the challenge that we have ahead of us that as we get deeper into this, that most people aren't thinking about. They're really just thinking about how they're just using it individually and support them. So how can you find the solution? So I'm really leaving this up to you to where you are, but this is where everyone needs to think about, and particularly in a business aspect, that this creates a unique moment in our history where potential is there. We know that AI can be used and generative AI is helping. So how do you bridge that gap between hype and reality? And that really isn't a disappointment, right? We don't go back to Australia when they're like, "Well, we invested so much again." Um, and we not really getting the productivity that we're getting from. It's more of a call to action for people who are innovators, business leaders, and technologists to roll up their sleeves and do hard work, turning AI into practical, transformative solutions. Those who can navigate this between the theoretical capabilities and its practical application in business will emerge as leaders in the next resolution. So we'll talk about um, a little bit more about how can we bridge those gaps. And the frontier is just open, and its ability to be matched is just beginning right now as we're just getting deep into this. Okay, so there's a couple of questions in the chat. I'll pause here. Can you explain where Gen AI can't solve but other ML models will need to be used? So that's a very good question. There is an article I just posted. I posted a bunch of these things on my LinkedIn, which use 6 ML models to be able to detect different types of cancer, diabetes, HIV, etc., using ML models based off historical data and be able to find those trends and be able to predict it with a very high AUC, a very high accuracy score. A generative AI model cannot look at trillions of data in the past and determine to come out because we know one LLMs have a context limit length. So they can't read millions and trillions of records. They could probably only read 128,000 tokens or a book sort of the type of Harry Potter. But in terms of millions of records, Gen AI does have limitation of how much data it can be fed in terms of trying to solve a unique problem. And they really aren't trained to be, LLMs are not mathematical models. They're next token predictors, next text predictors. So they can be as smart as determining what the subject is, but they're not going to be going and doing mathematical situations unless you put in a Python developer or a Python development package that outsources and you can use Python then to then start doing calculations like an AI agent. But Gen AI itself can't do that number crunching, can't do the accuracy, can't do that fine tuning, can't do things that currently are the ML stage can only do currently. So not all tools fit into the same bucket. Based on experience, I can say GitHub gives me significant. Okay, that's a great thing, Naveen. So I'll actually be talking about that next on upcoming things. That as much as things are going great in terms of helping you become more productivity, there is drawbacks to that, and which we'll talk about in the next section. So people become faster. So what about teams? So Naveen gave a great example of this. Um, GitHub Copilot came out. People are saying, you know what, this is awesome. This is helping me streamline my processes faster. I can go out and code better. And therefore, if my whole team has GitHub Copilot, therefore everyone should be more productive and everyone should be able to produce the same output I'm doing because this is what Gen AI is doing. It's helping you become more productive. So let's look at the next couple of slides and find out if this is true or not. And maybe again, you might have a difference of opinion. That's great. This is where we're having those discussions, and we'll put them in the chat. So let's talk about software development simply because it's a little easier to talk about when you're designing something as an AI product. You sort of have to sort of follow a software development life cycle, right? So you have your requirements, your design, your development, your testing, deployment, your maintenance. You sort of have this linearity circles that's sort of going in, going around, and you feel like, well, generally I should be coming in and helping everyone in this part, and therefore should be more productive. But in reality, software development is not as linear, right? Linear software development is very non-linear, right? We know that there's very different iterations. It's not like a manufacturer assembly line where you grab something, pass it off, pass it off, pass it off, then you develop the car, right? It's done. Someone develops the engine, someone develops this. There are sections in where they might be doing testing, you're finding out something completely wrong. You need to go back, think about the design, do the developments. You might need to go back and look at the deployment. You need to find out that in the deployment, there was some major bugs. So you need to go back and look at the requirements. This is something that really happening, right? So it's not just not like a assembly line that happens. It's a little bit more complicated in the sense that there are gaps. And sometimes when one person completes the work, another person needs to pick it up. And they need to understand that it's a constant communication, it's constant iterations. Um, and SLC is not as simple of simply just going from one to two, three, four, five. Those who are working there will see that it does require a bit more. It's a bit more complicated than that, as you can see by the arrows. I just gave it different examples of what happens when something does go wrong or something that needs to be iterated, right? A lot of people are now using for SDLC, no one uses waterfall. For those who are interested, who are doing project management, know that waterfall, everything happens and then boom, you have a big bang at the end. More people are going through the agile methodology for those who are doing daily stand-up scrums, etc., because they know that you need to work fast, you need to work agile, you need to be able to change things at a fly. So this is something a little bit more complex than just a normal linear pattern. So let's go to something called the vector problem. So what we expect is that each role or individual in the SLC will become more effective and more efficient in their specific tasks, right? So let's say we gave AI to our developers who are using, let's say, Cody or Windsurf or Copilot, etc. We gave all our developers all those tools for our Scrum Masters, Jira's, um, that are working there. They're giving them whatever AI tools to help them create better stories faster. So if that's true, then we should see that SDLC should be improving, right? If you're having people that are doing faster productivity in coding, we're seeing people who are doing faster right user story writing, etc. We should see an acceleration happening, right? So currently, I would say imagine a person in a sailboat. They're usually just using paddles, 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 paddles to get to the word current end. I would say this is the current state right now. But with AI, we should see that it should be accelerating. If I'm giving the requirement people AI to help write the requirements, that should be fast. If there's things happening with development, that should be faster. People going this, developments and maintenance, it should be going faster. We should be seeing that productivity. But why with AI tools are we still seeing the exact same process time to come out? Or why are we still seeing that way, right? So the reason why, and it comes to what happens when there's AI not applied correctly. So Neil asked a interesting question. Are there AI models that work well in current changing worlds? So yes, AI is a great tool and it can be used correctly in the current world, but most companies are still trying to figure out how to use AI correctly. Most companies still don't know how to use it effectively. And what happens if one person's paddling to the left? What happens when one person's paddling to the right? One person's accelerating, one other person's not accelerating, right? So I tried to do a difference of paddle boat of a motor coming in, the fire engine here, factoring it out, it sort of swirls and well, gets confused because what happens is when you have one person who's really good at doing something, but let's say another person doesn't want to use AI because they don't trust it, you still have bottlenecks. And we'll talk about those later on of as much as you can be as productive you are in your workplace, you're only one section of a whole team that still requires testing, deployment, design requirements. And as much as you accelerate your work, and you're pushing the paddle forward, there could be another person saying, "Whoa, whoa, 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 let's go back and let's read at this," right? And then they're turning the paddle to the left. Another person saying, "Well, I noticed that all the scripts, all the user stories that were developed, are completely wrong. They're AI generated and they make no sense at all." And then you're getting this chaos that you're seeing that people aren't using those AI tools correctly. So that's sort of the issue I've seen in majority of companies is that as much as they're pushing forward AI, they're getting into it, they're not evolving. And the point of this is to evolve with AI. And this comes to a problem, which we'll talk about next, which is called local optimization versus global optimization. So this comes to the fact that the misalignment between teams is sort of disappointing, and individual roles are report increasing productivity, like people were writing before. Developers are writing code faster, testers create more test cases, and analysts are producing more documentations, but the end-to-end delivery of the time of the project is not improving dramatically as expected. And I challenge everyone who is in that software development cycle or who are in those parts, look at your time to start to finish and tell me if you're actually saving a month or 2 months in delivering your product, or is it still taking the exact same 6 months, 1 year to develop your products? And you're saying you must need to think about why. Because this is creating a paradox. Because how can people work faster but the teams aren't delivering much faster, right? So the key part of here is to understand that as much as you have AI pushed into your workplace, pushed into your business, and you're giving AI to improve individual progress, they said that even giving AI is boosting at least 30% of role-based productivity. The end result, that there's one very slow, very plus or minus overall delivery time. So if you were a CEO and you're like, okay, I'm giving everyone AI, I'm giving everyone GitHub Copilot, I'm giving everyone Microsoft 365 Copilot, I'm giving them all the tools to do their job faster. But why aren't they delivering faster? Or why aren't they being more like getting more efficient? And the one thing that most people don't talk about is something called the context gap. And this is the unspoken truth of context. AI tools are excellent at handling well-defined tasks within a specific domain. However, they still struggle understanding context understandings that bring humans to the development process, right? And this comes to having someone as an AI that understands the broader business objective of a project, understanding assumptions, and historical information. And AI won't know that you tried this project 5 times in the past and done it over 3 times in a year because they don't have that context. They don't know that, hey, actually doing this way will be actually really bad, or they don't know whatever you tried in the past. They're just trying to solve issues currently that they see right now. And the biggest part of it is sort of the independence between different components of a system. So down here, I try to create like a diagram of what would happen if the PM creates all these user stories, questions, and queries, and as things go through, but the next person who is the product owner, it still needs time to review and analyze all the information given to him because before, um, let's say the project manager would give probably 5 pages of documentations to the product owner before, right? So the product owner would take maybe 1 day to review it, but now the project manager is developing 15 pages of work because they're giving AI to sort of develop better documentations, better rules, everything. So now the product owner needs a couple of days now to sort of go through all the different data, and they can't really just use an AI to sort of read through all of it and just say, okay, next, right? They need to actually sit down, go through it all. They might be using AI to give them quick summaries, but because now they have more documentation, they need to take more time. So that creates one bottleneck. And then from the product owner giving it to the BA, business analyst to collect information, there's another bottleneck that happened, and there's another bottleneck that happens. As much as the developer is developing and being more productive, they just need to go to the testers. The testers still understand, oh wow, the developer developed all this code in great time, everything like that, but I still need to take my time to test. So as much as you try to be productive and pushing forward, it seems to create this paradox because there's more productivity, there's more work, there's better understanding, becomes these gaps that are happening. So I'll take a pause here and I'll answer some questions in the chat. Someone asked, can agentic AI approach possible bridge those gaps? So thank you, Sunil. That's something that we'll talk about next. So we'll talk about how can agentic AI actually help that out. Do you think Paradox can get maximized, minimized over time as the world gets better understanding these bottlenecks? So yes, Srinath, this is exactly what we're talking about before. The opportunity will come to those who are finding the solutions to these problems. Currently, there isn't an optimal solution. There isn't end all right now solutions. But if who's ever able to solve this gap is going to be the one who's going to be able to make the most money because then they can actually produce true productivity. Um, and this is something that I would say that no CEO has come out and said. Meta has come out, I think it was Meta who said that they're receiving 40% more productivity from their AI developers using their coding, which is great. But remember, they didn't talk about delivery time. They didn't talk about time to finish a project. They're just talking about coders developing faster, right? And that's something you need to watch out about a lot of wording about CEOs, and particularly in the business sense they're trying to change the message. They're trying to change the narrative into something positive, although they're not talking about what's the real ROI that should be happening with AI. So yeah, seriously, I know it's maybe hard for you to understand that how overall productivity cannot be improved, but that's truly what's happening in businesses right now, and this is where the paradox is happening. Individuals are progressing and are using this to be better in understanding the code. They can develop code faster, test more, but really projects aren't finishing faster. Projects are still taking the exact same time. The delivery time of new things are still happening. So how can we optimize this part, right? So the AI chips, so very interesting deployments using AI to optimize chips designs to make their times faster. But again, that goes into development, right? As much as you say, okay, NVIDIA come out and they were able to go in and optimize chips that are 30 times faster, but it still takes time to produce it, still takes time to do the hardware, still takes time to create the project, deliver it, come out. And again, you need to be very careful and wary of how the messaging comes out because I can come out and say, all my software developers are coding 30% faster. I can use AI and changing it to a new model of OpenAI has increased 4 times the performance because they can give out code way faster. It's easy for me to say that, but for me to say it's actually providing true ROI, I'm getting my products are releasing 30% faster because this release is coming out. And they can't do that because it's really based on each business and how each business works. So what we're going to be talking about is what are possible solutions to how to really remove bottlenecks from these different paradoxes. So the current state, many people might see discouraging. It's not without hope, as people are saying in the chat. Is there not a way to optimize this? Has not everyone figured this out? Is there ways to do is we can look at ways how we can improve the processes, right? So again, yep, thanks for I think you were saying is that for small isolated, if it's one person working on a project and you're doing all the different rules, then of course you'll see a huge productivity on your side. But in larger projects, usually in organizations that are doing large projects, you need to have multiple individuals, right? You need to have that PO, you need to have the UX design, you need the architect, you need the dev, you need the BA, you need your dev ops, you need have all the different people working on a project to make it successful, to make a really great project. And those are for larger companies who are doing larger scale things and which are trying to use AI to optimize their companies. So what are we seeing and what are different ways that can really change and push forward and remove this paradox? And again, this is where I talked about before. There needs to be an evolution. There needs to be changes to current state in order to optimize things. So I'll talk about here maybe different types of solutions. There's no right answer, but again, I'm going to give you guys a couple of things that we sort of use with clients to talk about how does AI or can AI be optimized to be used in the software delivery center to really optimize for that for those parts. So again, an example of this is something called cross-functional collaborations, in which instead of working with individuals, you're handing off work, you sort of bucket individuals into one initiative. So you have your product owner, UX, and your architect working together called ideation and design, in which all three can work together using AI tools and using it to speed up the process and then handing off to the next section. I'll use all those three using AI tools and then passing out to the next section and testing deployment. So instead of pass waiting for one individual, the cross collaboration is to really help align certain roles to become together, focusing on optimization rather than individual task accelerations, and then help with testing and deployment. For example, if you're a developer, and the business analyst is working there, maybe the business analyst can work at the same time using AI to give to the developer at the same time. As soon as the information comes in, the QA is writing code on the developer's code at the exact same time using AI. And then we're sort of developing that whole development is happening at the same time rather than waiting one for another, right? The whole point of this is to sort of say an example of trying to solve this and trying to maximize this is really that evolution of instead of having one role passing, one role passing, one role passing, having that bottleneck is to sort of combine certain roles. And this one we call the cross-functional collaboration role, where you can then use different roles and optimize them for larger products. And this could result into a 25% better increase. But again, this isn't the end-all solution, right? As you know, that AI is evolving, there's different ways we can do it. And someone even mentioned using AI agents, which is really interesting that you're thinking about that now because, yes, for sure, that's another way we're going to think about how we can use that approach. Exactly. So Satya made a really great statement that in reality, people are still trying to figure out where and what to use what, right? To use agents or not to use them and force fitting them. That's correct. And unfortunately, as I said before, people are just trying to use AI agents for everything because why? Better investments, better names, better saying, I'm using AI agents in my chat, I'm using AI agents in IT. That's what investors want to hear. That's what people want to know that you're being innovative and they're trying to shove AI agents into anywhere they can without knowing what's the true comms of that. So thank you, Satya, for those comments. So another way, rather than the cross collaboration, is something called the compression approach. A compression approach proposes a reimagining the whole software development process. So instead of a linear role-based workflow like we saw before, it's sort of more like a collaborative approach, sort of like a constant hackathon. So using more class collaboration, you can pass work from one role to another instead of just waiting for everything to happen at once, right? You can compress roles using different AI methods as well, right? So this is where the compression, where we can use something called swarm collaboration happens, rather than just focusing on certain roles. How can we use the roles that we currently have, um, do some rapid prototyping, and then have AI to use the documentation, to use the testing, and using the coding to get better and faster results. So instead of just having a couple of bottlenecks where individuals we're having, we can sort of blend certain roles together, have continuous integrations, and just like they were saying in the chat, use AI as accelerators rather than bottlenecks. So, and when you're having the UX designer design something with the developer, with the QA, and they're all bouncing ideas off and they have it developed, you can then just hand it off to your documentation AI instead of having a BA write all the documentation. You can have a documentation AI that's going to write your code, write your documentation directly. That's an accelerator. Then that goes to your tester. Then you have a test AI that's sort of like that could be focused on lint or it could be focused on any other type of coding, and then testing all your code at the same time and give you percentages. And then you have your code AI that goes back and looks at your code and say, hey, you know what? This is something that's not working. So it goes back to the developer, it go back to the QA, and then you send it through the pipeline again. So you're creating these pipelines with AI that are part of your circle now. So instead of each individual using AI just to boost their productivity, they're actually using the work to boost their productivity and they're giving it to these AIs that are like collaborators and potentially AI agents that are going to help accelerate that platform. Because now, because of this is happening, you can accelerate and use those AIs to help push it forward and reduce those bottlenecks. And this is something where we're saying that this is another approach where you can continually work on and use. And again, there's no one solution for each company. Each company sort of has their different ways they want to work. But if you want to use AI in terms of producing something really great, you sort of need to rethink and evaluate how can you really optimize your team to make and use AI as best as you can to really push out and accelerate that, right? And so you just can't just say, I'm going to integrate AI into my things. You need someone who really understands how AI works. How do AI agents work? How do they really produce real ROI? Is there really something wrong with it? Are they just using AI simply because they want to use AI and such as give another using another part where people just want to use RAG because it sounded cool for the AI, but it could be solved in a real simple way. So this is where you can use AI as an assistant to help really push and accelerate that pipeline. And that result is you can then push your productation faster. So we'll go through different examples of that as we continue as well. So, what is the compression approach continued? Again, just due to time, I have this in the slides. So there's different roles in the compressions. You can do traditional hackathon challenges. The role of AI is that they're tireless, right? Although you work 9 to 5, these agents can work 24 hours, right? They don't need to stop. They can still continue testing the code. If we have 30,000 lines of code, these AI agents are able to go then still process, still process, still process, still process, and help you keep reviewing, constantly improving the productivity of those projects, right? And looking at what those lean principles mean when you're in SDLC, eliminating work in progress, role compressions, and ensuring that vector alignment that we talked about before continues to contribute overall to the team efficiency. So there's different ways we can still look at that. So the compression benefits comes out by reducing development pipeline, improving collaboration, increase innovations, etc. Right? So this is something great that comes from using compression, which is a mix of individuals being compressed from multiple roles into one, to some, and then using half of it like an AI agents to help accelerate the second part. So this is really where you need to think about evolving your own team and being able to find ways to actually accelerate and increase that productivity. So what are the challenges of doing this? So as you're talking about compressing to the team, it's gonna really hard to find someone who can maybe be a jack of all trades, right? So example, if someone is a project manager and they need to understand how a product owner thinks about and works as well, and how a BA works, you need to find people who are able to take on those three different roles at once and be able to think about it in a separate different way rather than just having individual experts. And we'll talk about it a little bit more about how it's important to be now in multiple roles and think about how AI can actually help you skill yourself up. As much as you might think, hey, I'm a developer, I don't know much about this, you can simply now go to ChatGPT and it's like, okay, now I want you to think as a QA tester and help me think of how I want to break this thing down, right? So instead of just being focused now or only the good things that you're good at, you can have ChatGPT help you level up from knowing nothing to even a basic intermediate level. Obviously, you want to be as advanced as someone who's been doing QAs for years, but you can get yourself really caught up to 50% at least, or 45 to 50% of that skill level to at least get you started and get you thinking about how a QA will start looking at things. So it's really about having that skill requirements of people be able to take on multiple roles in order for the compression to work. You need to have good tool integration, which will come at a cost. If you're having a good QA tester that's an AI agent, how you training that model? Is that model already trained? Are you buying versus building? You need to think about how the integration looks like and how it's actually being passed on your pipeline. And also the management complexity is a little different and requires new management approaches. So it's not typically one manager looking at a team of five and looking at the project manager, what's going on, and the product and your project manager is trying to figure out, hey, this person following up, is this person following up? The project manager needs to look at things as a whole, especially if it's looking at a hackathon type of deal. You can't really project manage a hackathon, right? A hackathon is people working constantly together, trying to develop a new product at the same time and try to develop quickly, right? And how fast they can get that out. So there is these different challenges to consider if we're going down the compression benefits. Now, how will this look like in terms of using AI tools in SLDLC? Again, I'll leave this here. I won't go deeper into it due to time, but this is something for everyone just to have if you have questions about how you can actually use SLDLC in terms of using AI tools. If you have questions afterwards, we have that office hour on Wednesdays to really go through it. But I just want to give you an example of a reference architecture how this would look like when you use AI in the different parts of the SLDLC. Okay, I'll take a quick pause here. I know it is, we just hit the 1 hour mark. We're gonna take probably like a 1 or 2 minute break for those who want to take a quick drink a glass of water, anything like that, and then we'll continue with the second half of the classroom here. So we'll take a quick pause and I'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. Oh, if you want 5 minute break? Okay. Okay, let's say 5 minutes then. I'll be at the 06 mark. All right, it's 12:06, everyone. We had to continue. There's a lot more stuff to go through today. All right, so we're talking right now about POCs and MVPs. So if we talked about before, we're talking about how things have to sort of evolve as AI comes out. We need to think about how really the whole process needs to be changed. So we know that POCs and MVPs before were we want to develop POC, you need to think about the UX, you need to put the design, you need to think about the model API, you need to develop a product. Has this whole chain that you sort of need to develop in order to develop a POC. But with AI advancements, this allows for quick creation of rough products to validate hypothesis swiftly. So instead of waiting for a whole team to develop something fast, you can quickly ask um, an AI to create something for you that is really fast for products to be created. So you can have so how this changes is instead of having on the top box of this whole team designing something that's a product, you can have a product that's almost perfect from AI, right? So now we know that, hey, AI did 80% of the work, 70% of the work. They used all this information and it sort of showed us how it's going to look like. Um, and then you have something, then you're like, okay, well, this looks like great, and this actually looks like it's good enough to be used. Then you switch to actually creating the product, then you actually integrate your real data, then you actually give your model, and then you scale. So this actually is a huge accelerator as well, because instead of waiting 3, 4 months for a product to come out, AI can give you a rough idea of what your POC or MVP will look like without doing that. And I'm going to give you guys a real example today of how to do this using a simple this, and this can be done within 10 minutes. And it's incredible what the capabilities of AI can be done today. And I'll give you that quickly after we've done the slides, so you can test yourself that way. So let's go to the next one. So what else the improvement of AI? So I talked about before, right? What if product managers can instantly understand code, right? So what, that compression, if the developer is creating all this code and the product manager is like, okay, well, I can only see what's happening after the UX developer designs something, or I can only understand what's happening that way, then the product manager always stays in his own circle. But now you can quickly copy code of anything and place into Gen AI and say, explain this code to me as if I'm 5 years old. And then when you do that, the product manager can say, oh, we have this feature in here. Oh, we have that. Oh, we have this. Or we can say, okay, from this code that you have, explain to me as a product manager what's important for me to know. So product managers don't need to be developers now to actually read code that's happening or don't need to be tech savvy. They just need to know enough about what's happening in the code, be able to take decisions for themselves. And just an example of what I said before is compression. Now that you have AI, don't think that yes, you can accelerate what you know and what you learn from what you have and can help accelerate your productivity. But you should also use it to be versatile, right? And to be now multi-skilled because you can use AI in your business in things that you have that can do things that you would not necessarily know before. And this is where we've seen things happen in the past where you can then use this and become product centric, right? So the ultimate goal is still the same, is the purpose is to pursue technology for its own sake, have rapid learning cycles, create MVPs, gather data, learn from it, then scale it, right? So this is what we're trying to do with AI now, and to actually help improve the productivity is that compression, compress, compress, compress. Instead of having unicorns in each area, you can have people who are multi-skilled, like that have that Swiss Army knife picture that you're not only in one area, you can have now people who have multiple knowledges around one area, simply because AI has now upskilled them in different areas that didn't know before. So, how does this look like, right? If right now we're working with human co-pilots, so what are the five stages that could happen and a Gen AI powered SDLC? You first start with humans, right, in the loop, what we have right now. So you have your human, you go, okay, work on the code. They work on the code. They use GitHub Copilot. GitHub will help them develop better codes, make it faster. They're ready. They push it to the next person. And that's where we are right now. Wave one human with Copilots, upskilling the employees with powerful techniques and prompts, creating tools that use LLM and classical engineering, etc. Right. So this is where we are in sort of human or sort of wave one right now into this. Wave two, as I talked about, is human with agents. So that compression we talked about before is now humans are working together, developing their products, but then they can actually pass it off to these AI agent pipelines where they can say, okay, do the draft, or work on this or work on that. And then humans are really just reviewers and approvers of what's being sent out, right? And there's always that gateway of always human in the loop, reviewing things, increases quality by generating these drafts and reducing frequent human interventions. Like you're just now processing and pushing that production forward. Now, this is what we call wave three. I believe that we still have to conquer wave one and wave two. Most companies are there. But like I said, from those who go to wave three to wave five, if we're able to solve these and be able to use this, then obviously this is where the gap is still working on and people are still working on to evolving. But wave three is now instead of human with agents, it's agents with human. So you can create this something called AI agent swarms. You may have seen that word on the internet. We have something called a swarm of agents, which are LLMs designed for specific tasks. So you can have a technical project manager, then you have a technical PM, then you can have a technical BA, you can have a technical developer, a technical QA, reviewer, and these are all AI agents. And you tell them to work as a swarm. That means work together to develop something productive, right? So you can say you can write to the operator who's sort of managing everything. Is it create a system that can do this? And what I'll do is it'll reach out to this tool, reach out to that tool, tell use that agent, use that agent, and develop everything for you. And then with you have a human that's still going through the approval at the end, not during the middle of the processes, but at the end and saying, hey, I developed, QA'd it, BA'd it, this is documentation. What do you think? And this is where you have that wave three coming through. So now you can quickly prototype, create and produce all that future information. Next is wave four. Now when LLMs get even smarter, when we reach the level I think I consider AGI, they can develop and work things for themselves, right? So you don't need to have these approvals. And then wave five is when they can simply just do things themselves on that end without any human interventions, right? So that's again projected possible future. As you can see, I put right now where we are in terms of horizontal dielectric forces, but if we look at where the future is heading to of how things can be happening, this is really dependent on how LLMs are going to be changing, how LLMs are constantly being produced, and if we actually get to the AGI section itself. So that's just to give a quick view of where we could be seeing the business process of this going in the future. So the main purpose of this, and I think a section and the first part of the section is going back to compression, you want to do more with the same team and you're leveraging AI to increase productivity, right? So just going back to what we talked about before, again, just reviewing key basic concepts. They want it in order to be what CEOs want, they want to scale operations. And the same operations you may have 10 people doing can only maybe 4 or 5 individuals do with the help of AI agents, increase work capacity without team growth, and potentially double velocity and throughput. As someone someone said, Wave 5 is scary. Yes. I don't think it's going to be happening anytime soon. Maybe I think once we have maybe 15 years, hopefully 20 years from then, we're all retired, that maybe Wave 5 can happen. But I don't think Wave 5 is going to happen right now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Um, so again, our part right now is that unfortunately CEOs do want to have less bodies create more work, right? That's pretty much their dream of doing. And this is what someone wrote in the chat. They're saying, well, I can produce this and AI can help me and I'm able to produce this fast. And that's great. You know why? Because you're a team of maybe one or two individuals working on smaller projects that can iterate out. Um, Maybe they need to evolve with AI. Who knows? Elon Musk is putting chips in kids' heads these days. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But we definitely need to keep our kids on track of what's happening with AI. That's 100% for sure because um, it's crazy what's going to happen. Um, so again, how do we do less with more? And this is where we're trying to look about CEOs. They're trying to compress these roles, and this is where AI can help you. AI can help you be multitasked, and you become this what we call the polyglot professional, in which this polyglot professional has multiple expertise, right, in programming, in cloud, in data ML, UX design, architecture. And how do you become that? Again, use AI at all the advantages that you can. AI can get you sped up, can get you to an area where you may not know certain coding, or you may not know how to do this, may not have that. But as long as you have the ability to do it, and then tell AI explain to you how you did it, and you're able to explain to a manager or to a business professional of what it did and how it did it, then that's what the polyglot professional is able to create and be modernized, be able to touch all these different roles and be able to be that productive from there. So a new approach to data products. So data products are complex systems that require a combination of skills, roles to develop, and maintain. So so this slide's talking about is as your role evolves, you'll see different roles evolve in business, and we'll see something that is super important. And as I'm talking more to different companies of when you look at for a VP of AI, when you look into directors of AI, they're not looking for people who know AI. It's interesting. They're looking for people who have product knowledge. They can build great products. Um, that's a great part, Sunil, and we'll talk about that in the next coming slides. I have something about that as well. But the data product specialist is something that is really interesting, and I think I was coming about this, although you may not see this role in LinkedIn yet. When I thought about this, is because a lot of people want people who know AI, which is great. But if you don't know how to develop a product and what features are important and what's necessary to make that important, then you'll still need a separate role for someone who knows how to own that product. You need a separate role for telling them what to produce. You'll still need some separate role of going that. But if someone who knows everything about AI, knows about AI applications, knows exactly what to use them, and knows actually how to sit down and say, okay, how can I make this a product offering? Then that skill set to me is going to be huge in the future. This is something that most people will want to get into is as much as saying product managers are completely separate, I would say you need to be able to learn. That should be the second skill set if you're getting into AI is learn how to do product management. Because if you want to sell a RAG, if you want to sell a chatbot, you want to sell something that AI can do, they don't want you're not developing the LLM in the back end. You're not developing the training data set for OpenAI. You're using OpenAI's information to create something useful. And in order to create something useful, that fortunately goes down that product line. So this is where, again, I tell everyone to get into is think about how you can learn more about product. And there's tons of courses out there. AI can also help you push forward into that multi-skill sets. But I really feel that data product specialist role is going to happen, and they're going to look for people who have those skill sets of, hey, have you been able to launch AI before? Yeah. Have you been able to build a RAG before? You have the AI agent? Cool. That's the bare bones. But when you push it to production, how do you know which features were necessary? How did you know that these are things that users are looking for to use with your system? And this is really where your product knowledge should be able to come out and shine through. All right, so this is sort of because we're having these type of discussions and I'm looking at it, it's sort of this is going to change the landscape of IT, and this is where a lot of people are not having enough conversations in business, and I'm finding a lot of people are still sort of stagnant in where they are because they think that with the current system of having just have a they're having their data science team set up that it's good enough. Um, as AI is evolving and you really want to use AI to go forward, you need to evolve with AI, and we need to evolve and understand that there is a challenging landscape, and the landscape will need to evolve into these new areas. And AI engineering, as before you would have your ML researchers, you had to have your machine learning data scientist, um, and a full stack engineer. But the AI engineer is sort of this new role again. You'll see a couple of them come out. This is certainly on LinkedIn now. I've seen a couple are asking for these AI engineers. And these AI engineers are looking people who know how to do agents, how to do training, how to do tooling, how to do infrastructure about AI. Um, so um, so that's the difference. Okay, so I'll just pause here. Someone had a good question. What's the difference between AI product specialist versus AI solutions architect? So the roles I would define them as an AI product specialist would be the person who's going to be able to tell you when you create a chatbot, what features it's necessary for it to have. And or example for a RAG, what it needs to look like on the front end and what it should be able to do versus an AI solutions architect is going to tell you where you're going to build your chatbot. Is it going to be on AWS with the playground? Where's the vector storage? Where's the infrastructure where the APIs are coming from? AI solution architect is more on the back end developing how to develop it on the back end. Meanwhile, AI product specialist is at the front end, be able to then determine how to sell that product. So that's sort of the difference between those two. But I'm saying the role that we talked about before, this data product specialist would then be a combination of those two, of someone who knows back end as well as front end, right? And that's really the best of both worlds that someone should know of developing, because you can develop all this cool back end stuff and have the AI model do everything you can. But if only one or two things are going to be used at the front end, then you just wasted all your time doing that stuff on that back end, right? So again, another cool rule emerging from that is the AI engineer, which is agent training and tooling and infrastructure, et cetera, that come from there. So just rounding up of the different things we talked about today, is AI hype real? Yes, but there needs to be a reality check, right? There needs to be understanding um, that yes, we can increase productivity, but there needs to be a change in your current teams, maybe change in current infrastructure because it's not made to be AI accelerated, right? So in order for you to make those changes, you need to have sort of steady growth of saying, okay, I'll do this small change, compress these roles, etc., and keep going forward. But stay optimistic, things will get better, etc. Right? And if you don't want to solve the problem, someone in maybe 6 months from now, 3 months from now, will then use to say, "Hey guys, we're changing everyone from this normal SDLC life cycle. We're not going to be using this, and then all the companies are not going to be using this, right?" So whoever that person is, whoever creates that, is going to make the most money from that opportunity. But that's pretty much what they're trying to do is trying to optimize that whole pipeline with using AI. So again, you'll see the compression effects that I talked about before, faster dev cycles because less individuals working together, quicker results, rapid upskilling, and now speed is now a core competitive advantage, right? So using AI, you can get things up and going instantly rather than just waiting 3 months, 4 months for things to develop. Embrace the unknown. We're shaping an uncharted future, and curiosity will be our compass, right? So roles will evolve, as I talked about before, but always you can always use AI to help you upskill and continue with the creative thinking, right? So, sort of rounding up all the different things we discussed today is that in the landscape of Gen AI in business, there are current problems that most people don't know or think about. And your job in business is to how can I really take the most productivity, get the most ROI, and really get it and really get things done efficiently, right? And that's really what the CEOs are looking for, and they were looking to push for that, right? So my job here is to help you understand and sort of change the mindset of rather than local optimization of individuals working better, but more of global optimization to think about how can you make the whole team better because if the whole team can work better together, therefore you'll get better productivity and you'll get better efficiency and you'll get faster release of prototypes, etc. So I'm going to pause there. Before we get to the next part of questions, I promised you a quick demo of something. So I'm going to actually post a link in the chat in Zoom. Let me know if you ever can access this. So just give me a thumbs up if you're able to access that site. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen from here. So what if I told you on my other classes, I was able to then we were using another thing to do quizzes, right? We were using a thing where you could scan your phones, be able to create quizzes, and be able to ask questions rapidly. But if I had 10 seconds, if I had 20 minutes to myself and I said, hey, I actually want to develop an app that tests people on AI. And if I want to test people in AI and I want them to know that they can answer questions and be able to do that, that would take me someone who knows how to do UI, UX design. I need someone who knows React. I need someone to be able to extract and build me a BA to sort of develop me these questions. I sort of need a front-end developer to do that. And I would tell it would take me 3, 4 months sort of develop this. But I'm going to show you something that I created literally within 10 to 15 minutes. And this is something that I'm saying to you that going through the whole cycle of doing this is no longer the same anymore. We can create MVPs, POCs in seconds now, and then say if it's actually really viable or not. So I'm just going to show you a quick example of, I'm using Claude here for an example, it's using Canvas, but I just gave it all the slides that we had. I told it to extract 10 questions on the content of the different things, but simply around the core concepts. Get through it. I just told it the different types of questions I wanted. And then I say create an app similar like Duolingo, in which the questions in which users will use a test their language like gamification, and each question will result to a new screen on the app. Then you can repeat some questions. When it did it, it created code for me. It created things that React. So I don't have that much React because that's a front-end developer code, but it's able to then use React code, use the questions that we sort of developed from here, and it starts creating a front end with XP, with points, with badges, completion, live streaks, set streaks, selected answers, shows results. And I didn't prompt it to develop that, right? The only thing I did was saying, doing something similar like Duolingo and create that. So it knows more information about Duolingo. It's able to then create these type of responses and then create me a good like a good part from that. So it did this all within 15 minutes, created me an app, and I would really like everyone go within 10, 15 minutes right now, within I would say like 10 minutes, to swiftly just go to the app and then ask it questions. And of course the app isn't 100%, right? Because again, this was something created within 15%, within 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. There's still some more development to go. But I want at the end of this, tell me, do you think this is a good enough to show as a POC to a business saying that, hey, you can create gamifications using GenAI using this? So again, I'm gonna stop the share there, and then ask everyone within probably, I would say maybe 5 minutes. You don't probably need 10 minutes to go through it, but go through, answer the questions, see what score you got at the end, and see how well you know the concepts of today. So you should have a screen that looks like this, where you see just the app itself, and then questions, and you just quickly just go through all the different answers yourself, and then put in the chat whatever score you're able to get as your high score. Don't be embarrassed, but it's again, this is something that we're trying, something that's new, right? But as you go through this, just remember that this was something that was created within 10, 15 minutes. It's an app, uses questions, uses something directly. And going back to what we talked about before, instead of having a BA, QA, MVP, having a UI designer, developing all these things, we were able to create this within 15 minutes. And is that good enough to show and accelerate to a founder and saying, hey, I'm creating a gamification app. I'm doing everything on Gen AI. Does this look good to you? So again, everyone just please go and try it and let me know your thoughts. So I'll just pause there.
Hey, Luis, after question number 9, when I answered it, the entire screen went blank.
Okay, interesting. Let's see what other people get.
Okay, I refreshed and it went to page 1. Okay.
Yeah, same thing happened after question number 4 or 5 for me.
Question 5.
Worked fine for me. I was able to see the congratulations.
Yes,
the
For
first
me, it was only
Yeah.
2. Only second after second question, I cannot proceed.
Incorrect. You can see your heart was removed. Maybe because everyone's using it right now, but let me just refresh a page and see if we still get the same error.
I got only 8 questions.
Any questions that are finished? All right.
Got only 8 questions.
So some people got some things fully, or if you're able to get that last part, like see that last part coming in, that'd be cool. But sometimes it's again, it's based off Claude's ability to let 40 people access it at the same time, maybe. But you should see a page like I got at the end of doing 10 questions.
I got 112.
That's nice.
What is the final score?
So when you finish, if you see my page, I'm sure it's sharing, you'll see the XP gained. So final score 98. For example, I was just clicking on things, whatever, just to make sure we get to the end. But you should see your final score would be on that part. But if everyone's sort of finished now, what I wanted to show was we were able to create an app that was able to go through everything, have clickable designs, have questions that catch your speed, show you gaining XP points, highest streak earned, earn badges, interactive. When I finished, I had like confetti fireworks happen at the end, right? And that's so to me, being able to produce and develop something as high as possible, like develop something quickly as possible. And I just had an idea, what would happen if I create a gamification app of questions I wanted to show and in terms of business. And this goes back to, if I share back to my screen, share my screen on this, and let me share 1 second. To expand this. Zoom is super fun sometimes. Expand this, and then share. So going back to the slide, going back to reimagining POCs, I didn't need to go and get people who are UX, UI designers. I didn't need to go through model APIs. I didn't need to do that data right. Going back to the last part of, I was able to create a product that's almost, although some people in some individuals got some errors, right? Not able to work through, probably because Claude's server didn't allow tons of people working on the same thing at the same time. But you can use this as a product almost. So I can go and talk with the founder, hey, I have this AI app. This is what it can do. I built it all through the front-end React system. The only thing is like, okay, great. Well, make it to a real product. So then I go make it a real product. I integrate real data into this instead of using the dummy data that we have. And then I have my model there. So this is what I'm saying. The change of using AI to accelerate work is huge now. I didn't have to use AI. I didn't need to contract someone who can develop me a front-end app that can host it online, that can develop APIs. I created something that was product that's an almost product and really show the value of this. And this is where I'm talking about accelerations, right? If you have someone saying, hey, create me an app and make it look good, and would it have this, how would that look like, right? And is this something feasible that can be done? I just showed you that yes, it's feasible. Yes, it's clickable. Yes, it's able to do this. And it's able to capture 2 points, all that stuff. And I literally did that within 15 minutes. So this is where I'm showing the big change of productivity gain needs to come from, is reshaping the whole thing of, hey, I need to develop this whole design to, hey, within 15 minutes, I can create an almost product, do a couple more changes to it, and then go from there, right? So that's something huge that I want everyone to go through. So again, play with yourself and develop your own sides. So right now we're going to take a couple of questions. I'm going to ask the group. So again, for those who want to answer, please put your hands up. But these are discussions that I'm going to have with everyone right now. But based off what you saw right now, do you think humans will be excluded from the workforce? And if you think so, how long do you think it's going to be if that's going to happen? So if you definitely have an opinion, please put your hand up, and then I'll say your name, and then we can definitely go from there. Okay, Nagesh, you can hand up.
It's echoing for some reason.
Okay, try again.
Yeah, I think it's fine now.
Yep. Yes, you're good.
As we saw, there are multiple phases, right? So when we are in the initial phases, at least it's going to make the humans more efficient in what they're doing and help with seed, like initial ideas, whatever is needed for things and the research related details. What, say you want to implement something and you want to research some of the stuff, or you want to create a new POC, something like that. So it's, or if you want to clean up your code or write tests or do all those things. So those are all making your things efficient. And then, slowly it looks like, we'll get to a place where the human involvement is going to get lesser and lesser. And at one point where it's going to be in such a way that there are like robots who are going to be like outsmarting humans, and it's going to be in such a way that human involvement becomes almost low unless human himself decides to kill at the point where, you know what, like, we don't want robots to be ruling us. We want humans to be able to do what they are supposed to do, but the robots are going to be, or like the AI stuff is going to be just the servants for the humans. And so it's kind of like a lot of things I believe in the future is also going to get regulated in a way that it should be kind of like helpful for the humans as well. Maybe there is going to be like, or maybe in a such a way that, like the AI and then robots are still okay to do a lot of stuff, but humans still has to get benefited with all this thing. And like, okay, so the government just gives this much amount of money for humans for their livelihood, and then they can just take care of themselves. But robots do all the job, and then all the people who are super essential for the company will make a lot of money, and then they become richer and richer, while the other people are probably going to be either, just like the mid-range, making some amount of money, or they should start like investing in the companies where they make money due to AI.
Mhm. Definitely, and I definitely agree that once we get to that part, there has to be some sort of subsidy, but we can go from there. I'm interested. What else do the class thinks? Ravi, I think you had your hand up second.
Yeah, so Nagesh actually pretty much covered a lot of it, but yeah, before humans get excluded from workforce, AGI I think is the first step. Once the AGI comes, everything will fall in place. Yeah, maybe UBI is the universal basic income is later.
Yeah, 100%. So Neil, you had your question hand up as well.
Yeah, my comment will be, I mean, we don't know what is that word going to be, right? What also it brings in is this new technology, is new opportunities. I guess human will adapt. There'll be newer opportunities, newer things, problems we have not even solved yet, right? So what it means is humans will learn the new technology, look at how this technology can be used at solving problems that we have not even attempted to solve today. So I don't know if you can say it will be excluded from workforce. I would say there'll be new work that humans will be doing. So that's how I see it. Probably you don't need as many to do that work, but you'll definitely see humans doing newer work in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Sunil. And this is something that we'll definitely be seeing as we come up. So my answer is very similar to what you're talking about. I just limited more back into that first phase that we're looking at, right? That most people are worried about, hey, like AI can answer customer support questions, and does that mean I'm gonna lose my job or et cetera like that, right? And one big thing I usually I think about now is, the self-checkouts, right? Self-checkouts are supposed to replace cashiers, people going in there, cashing out, no need of a cashier, and then you walk out. But now it's 2025, and I'm seeing that these self-checkouts have now been removed. I'm going back to the same place, and they're not there anymore, or they reduce them to only 3 or 2, or they have one person watching them doing an extra job, looking at what people are going through, right? So although it may look like we're pushing forward, there might be some limitations and setback that could happen as we go forward and trying to understand this landscape. So I would say that there always has to be a human in the touch for these product developments. As much as AI is super smart, as much as it's going constantly limiting our roles, we still need something that has creativity, intuition, understanding human needs. And this is something that I'm looking in, and maybe someone wrote in the chat like they're having issues with AI not being able to work for them. It's that AI currently lacks that intuition, right? Sometimes it doesn't understand that maybe one person needs more emotional connection versus another, or a person needs to have people like going to the grocery store because they like just talking to a cashier and having that interaction. So these are things that maybe AI robots won't know and have like that, all right? So this is something that still won't be replaced by AI as much as things go forward. So AI can still replace many routine tasks. Training is still capable, but it still needs humans to identify and fix errors and struggle with new situations which aren't part of its data, right? So a second part of it is rather than being eliminated, the roles that people were saying before are going to likely evolve. And it's crucial to remember that humans are the creators of AI. It's not someone else changing us, it's us deciding that factor. So the goal that people are trying to do now is to scale business and not to reduce the workforce. And that should be the main goal that all those who get into in forward. And AI will undoubtedly change the landscape, but this will lead a shift in the types of skills valued in the workforce with greater emphasis on creativity, problem solving, and the ability to work side AI systems. So those who are going to be more valued would be those who are going to who are going to be more creative, right? So this is what's really interesting, going back to those who like creativity. So instead of just being a button pusher, those who actually want to think outside the box will actually gain the most from all this. But yeah, that's a really good discussion for this part. So again, for those this may be something new for those who are who didn't take Gen AI 101, but maybe for those who take Gen AI 101, what do agentic workflows mean for service companies? Maybe someone put their hand up and be able to answer that. If not, I can I can definitely try to talk about this. But when we talked about this in our slides, when we talk about compression, right? And the different pipelines. But what do you think these workflows mean for service companies?
Can I go, Louis?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Go
believe
ahead.
so. From the quiz that we just did, right? It says the service companies are in a very sweet spot. I tend to agree with that as well, because they can increase their productivity for sure using these agents, and then the workflow and everything else gets better, and they should be able to work faster, get more projects in, and get more things done. So I think, as I said, they're in a very sweet spot. That's what I mean. I think they're in the right place right now. They're not overhyped or undervalued.
So just going to that, so exactly. So the quiz stole my thunder. It read the sweet spot part, but it's I think service injury is in our sweet spot, right? And it also it depends on how it's being used. I'm going to use an example of Wendy's. They partnered with Google to create automated Gen AI, an automated Gen AI voice text to voice system for their drive-through, which they thought was a great idea because this would solve a lot of people not being able to having someone reduce that individual from interacting with the customer, able to take orders because all they're doing is just taking orders and that's it. But it came down to Gemini didn't know people's accents, had a hard time listening to individuals, and it wasn't executed or wasn't trained properly at all, right? If if Wendy's took that seriously and say had recordings of, let's say, the last 5 years of voice, um, and be able to then use that to train a voice model and say when someone's asking for a double burger, that's exactly it. So anything in terms of service companies, so anything that deals with giving something to a customer is considered service. So that's what I meant by that. So I'm just giving an example of could be companies that develop software, can be individuals who provide a service of cutting grass, could be individuals who are serving burgers, like in terms of anything that's in terms of serving to a customers. That's what I meant in terms of the service industry. Because you're dealing with individuals who are repeated. We're trying to do repeated service example that way. So just like pair programming, what we do now, they can use ensure quality in AI outputs, right? and you still need someone to overview what's happening. So the agentic opportunity is there, using agents in different ways of taking orders or interacting with customers or having phone calls. I just saw on the Medium one day, someone created an agentic phone call using OpenAI's voice to text API, in which they would make random phone calls to individuals saying, would they be interested in having a realtor look at their house and be able to sell. So he's into the realtor business. And because he had a lifelike voice, he was able to get leads doing this, right? And he wasn't the one going and calling people. He was using an AI agent, voice agent, that would go and call individuals and have automated messages and have it respond and be able to capture leads this way. So there is an opportunity for those who are getting through it and modernization boom. So there is opportunities always with working with customers to do something like this. So next question, is it just a hype and tech has already reached a plateau? So that's a good question that maybe something to look deeper into, but is AI just hype and sort of where we reached our LLMs? Has it reached to where we are? Maybe someone have a response to that one.
I can comment.
Yep.
Yeah. From what it looks like, we're just barely scratching the surface here. We're just getting started. So, I mean, as much as we say it's hype, it's just the reality in which this technology gives an endless possibility. It's up to the individual to see how we can use it to our advantage, right? So basically, in essence, we're just getting started.
That's a good way. And one thing I want to challenge people is that I see people writing LinkedIn and saying, no, ChatGPT is just autocorrect on steroids. So when you see comments like that, what do you think about those in regards to this and the hype, and that people think the hype is about this?
Actually, I don't think it is just an autocorrect. I think it is helping us do a lot of, routine things and some things that can be automated, I would say. I think, or something like, you have a list and you want it a comma separated list, or you want something, or get the basic answers, like a trip, plan a trip, right? Instead of talking to multiple people, you go and go to ChatGPT and all that. So when it's saying it is autocorrect in steroid, I don't know. I don't think so. I think, but it will definitely reduce a lot of common questions and common answers that we can get. I think AI can definitely help. And I think, I don't know, yeah, I think that's where we are. I think the generic ones are all answered. More specialized ones, I think it is yet to go there, but the generic ones are all answered.
Great, thank you for your comments. So here you had your hand up.
I personally use AI day in and day out. I see a lot of use. It's not just a thing, because it helps me at least saving 60% of my time in many cases. Even as an example, yesterday I was we are building a new API, so I just need go through the logs and understand what all the properties that people are using, which manually takes days. It was done like in 5 minutes. So and it is more accurate. Like sometimes there is some mistake. I mean, 20% or 15% correction are there. Over the time, it will correct. But 85% of my time is saved because of that. I'm saying I use day in and out on my work every day. And even for JNITs, people, I have seen my team, I mean, my company uses extensively. People who used to write JNITs takes months to come up with all the use cases. It happens in now a couple of hours, not even days. So it's not hype. I think it's changing the life. But as many of them said, it's evolving. So it's a long way to go. So I think it just started.
Awesome, thank you. Ravi, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a hype, but I think it depends upon who you ask the right. Like people who are aware of what Gen AI is, what it can do, they will probably say it's not a hype. But people who are not aware, probably they can see and then call it as a hype. But I think AI just started. I mean, it's only in the generative text right now, like in the text phase, but there are a lot of phases which are not even explored, like the physical, so many other ways, right? Only small portion of the thing is right now, just tested. So it still has long way to go.
Awesome. Awesome. I think Ravi, you had your hand up next.
Luis, is it my turn?
Shravanti, yeah. Shravanti, you're next.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, yeah, if you had asked me the same question a few months ago, I would have said it's just a hype. But when I started attending these sessions, I started using the AI, then I realized the power of AI. I can compare this analogy, something like this. A few decades ago, how we used to talk due to landlines. Later, we switch. At that time, does anyone believe that we can talk without wires? Probably no. But we came to a stage that we can talk even only with the internet, not even with the other networks, right? So, in the same way, it enabled us in many ways, like starting, like robots, even in the household works as well as in the corporate environments. The way we code has drastically changed. So if I recently started working with multiple languages, I don't have time. Earlier, the work style would have been go learn Python, understand Python, start coding. But it's not the case currently. I have some code base. I'll ask AI, can you do these changes in this file for me? Yes, it gives. I can trust that in most of the cases. It might need human brain in some cases, but it is getting there where we can blindly depend on that code. So it's already drastically changed, and there is a long way to go as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Exactly. I agree. Srinath,
Sure. So when you look at the second question, tech has already reached the plateau? Certainly not. There's a long way to go. Is this just a hype? Maybe there is an element of hype that's probably stemming from the fact that there is a lot of excitement with AI today. And in that excitement, people are dreaming of large use cases. And a fraction of that is failing at the moment, which may feel like this is a hype. But in reality, um, as this technology matures over time, this is not going to be hype at all. There are many ways that people are using it. One of the ways that I have started recently using AI is the conversational AI. When I'm driving, if I have a topic that I'm not all that familiar, I just engage in a conversation. By the time I complete my ride, I'm a little more aware about that topic than before. So imagine if this were to be done consistently over time, it makes me more versatile in the fields that I never thought I would be good at. So it may feel like a little bit of a hype today, but that's going to get ironed out, in my opinion.
Awesome, and I agree. We'll have to talk about that for sure. Nagesh, you're the last person to comment for the time.
Yeah, I think the people actually did great points. Some of the things which I have seen as an observation talking to people who are, maybe like senior directors and above, right? So they have a vision, they have a dream that, okay, so we want to get these things done. And then they have staff put in, the ML the team put in, and then what they are disappointed and then kind of feel hype is because the outcome is not as expected. After a certain amount of time of investing in that staff, then what they have shown is not close to what they were envisioning as a real life product as such. So in that way, I've heard people say that it's kind of like a hype on what the expectation is and what it's actually producing, but we still have a long way to go. And And again, some of the things which you guys were talking about, was probably something which could help a little bit also in terms of that journey.
Awesome. No, exactly. So I'll take this last minute just to deeper dive what you're talking about. And one of them that everyone's talking about today is Manus. And what is Manus and Manus? And I see the last couple of weeks just people just going crazy, like what's this thing Manus coming out? This, and for those who haven't who are not following AI news, maybe just me, I'm just really nerdy and getting deeper into it. But on my news feeds, it shows that the Chinese have created this agentic platform that's going to blow everyone's mind out of the water. You need to have special access. You can only access it if you sign up, and you have to wait like 3-4 months to use it. There was a bunch of hype going saying, well, this is going to change everything. This is going to change the industry. So there's a lot of hype going on every single time something that's new come out, right? As soon as Gemini drops a model, or as soon as OpenAI drops a model, we see these news like, is this going to change the world? Is this going to things like that, right? And it misaligns expectations of no, it's going to make my code from coding from 60% and improve to 80%, right? This new thing comes out, or it's able to explain things in a better, more clear way. And those are the incremental increases we have. So the hype versus the reality thing is real. Things that is. For those who didn't see what happened with Manus, after the hype came out, a lot of people are testing like, wait a minute, Manus is really Anthropic's Claude 3.7 API being used with AI tool wrappers. So then all the hype just dropped down saying, oh, like I could have created this, or hey, I could have put this together in a platform and done things how it is. And they stopped talking about Manus immediately, right? And it's again, most of these companies are doing these hypes and they're trying to oversell, overpromise because that's what gets them the sales, right? And eventually people get bored of it, people get sick of it. They're like, if I see another AI announcement, I'm gonna be sick and tired, right? So, but hype isn't a bad thing. So the buzz around AI is helping drive investments and early adoption. While overhype can be misleading, it also fuels momentum, right? If it wasn't for the AI hype, I'm pretty sure none of you would be here as well, right? Because you're like, well, everyone's talking about AI, I should probably get to know what's happening, right? And I'm great that you guys here, and this is what hype isn't necessarily a bad thing as well, right? Because it just helps people catch the energy, understand what's happening, right? Success doesn't happen overnight. Pilots will fail, and that's normal. And they need to treat AI like any product innovation: test, learn, iterate, and scale always as that comes through, right? So I know we're running over time. So we're going to be using this exercise next class. So I just brought this out here. When we start next class, we'll be breaking into 5 different groups. Next class, we'll be looking at one case study. What's the goal? And we're going to define what is a solution to that case study, right? So as you go into groups for next class, we'll start off. You'll be able to start having time to build out your slide. You'll have one slide to identify what's the problem that's based off your group. What is the solution, and what are the practical steps to identify to fix that as well? So just due to time today, we'll start that off next class. We'll start off the case study. I'll put you guys in groups. So for those who want to get a head start and really get into it, if you go to the last slide on the slide deck of week 1, you'll see the different groups, and you'll see the different problem statements each one has. And you can definitely take a look at it and think of different ways of identifying it. We'll go in and we'll develop those case studies, and then each team will have 5 minutes to present what their problem statement was and what was the solution. And we'll be using exactly what we learned today's class to go through it. So thank you for joining for week 1. It's really great to see most of you again here again, and listen great to hear your comments. And I hope you guys keep learning from that plate. So I'll stay back if anyone has any questions, but enjoy your Saturday, everyone.
Thanks, Louis. I
Thanks,
think it
Louis.
was one of the most informative sessions that we had. It was like a full deep down into multiple things. It made some of the slides made us scary as well, I would say. But hopefully, yeah, we are not there yet. Thank you so much for the session. Yeah.
Awesome. No, and the point of this is to, again, what I can't teach on the Gen AI 101s and 103s is it's more of how to use the tools. But now we talk about 102 is practical use, right? And this is where we can have these open-ended discussions and discuss more of how it's actually being used. Well, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, Luis.
Thanks, Lewis.
Thanks, Luis.